Mark Skaar on 103.7 The Fox, bringing in David Ellefson from Megadeth. David, welcome.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. Dave and I go way, way back. Gosh, about 30 years ago, probably. I used to call your parents like a lot of kids did, and they were great to us. And sometimes Dave would come back to Jackson, Minnesota, where he's from, and call us and talk about music. It was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's, the connection to the Midwest is something really special, My Italian friends from the East Coast, I think, have a similar connection in their own way. But for those of us from the Midwest, there's just a certain kind of hometown, authentic, genuine thing that even after all these years away from the area, 35 now in my 36th year. Actually, it was actually 36 years ago in June of 1983 that I moved out of Minnesota, went to L.A. and met Dave Mustaine. We started Megadeth, and lo and behold, here in 2019, here you and I are on the phone talking about music again. So it's been a good journey.
Yes, sir. Speaking of Dave, how's he doing?
He's in his recovery for going through his process for his treatments, I should say. And just, at this point, giving him his space to do that. And the announcement that went out the last week was, largely to just let fans and everybody know that we're going to have to clear the calendar for the year to let Dave go through that treatment. So that's what's going on now. And in the meantime, I'm off doing some other stuff, while we have a little break here for a while.
Yes, sir, and you do have a lot of things you're juggling, and I'd like to dive into those. More Life with Death, your third book, comes out July 16th, and I got a chance to peruse it, and I'm digging the old stories, again, going back to the local haunts like the Fox Lake Ballroom, the Bancroft Ballroom, which isn't very far away from where I'm talking to you now, and I was surprised to see a Gray James mention.
Yes, in fact, is Bancroft Ballroom still there?
It's there, but it's not open anymore.
Not open, yeah. Gray James, yeah, they were very kind to me and my friend Greg Handeman, who I had give some backstory to some of my story. And that's they were a band who took us under their wing and gave us opportunities to play shows when we were young and just starting out. And one of the things I did with this book is, it's one thing for me to tell the story, but I love to read books where other people are involved. In particular, there's a Kiss book called Nothing to Lose.
Yes.
It's about the early days, the formation, and kind of runs up through the first three albums of the Kiss career. And ironically, as I was writing this book, initially, the stuff that I've done here in recent years with the coffee company and the record label, and that all kind of fell out pretty naturally onto the pages. But then when I started talking about relaunching Combat Records, that all of a sudden took me back into the early years of Megadeth. Mm-hmm. And because that was our alma mater, that was our first record label that we were on. And that suddenly took me back into all these early years of Megadeth. And ironically, not intentionally, just kind of coincidentally, my book, More Life with Death, it's kind of similar to that Kiss book in that it has the early, all the early people, Greg Handovitz, Bradley Schmidt, friends of mine from Jackson, who we moved out to L.A. together, met Dave, and, when we formed Megadeth together, and it's really, I just love those kind of books. So it's cool because I feel like I got to write a book that I would be a fan of reading myself.
Talking with David Ellefson, another thing that you're putting out here very soon, the same week as the book, your record, Sleeping Giants, July 19th. Cool people on there like John Bush and David Glenn Isley. I was listening to the record. I thought Blocky Lawless was on the record.
On what song?
There's the one song where it sounds like Blocky Lawless is singing on it.
Okay, all right. Well, it's funny. Tom Hazer, my business partner and also co-author of my book, he sang on 3 songs One song, the track Vultures, is something we wrote while we were out on my bass story tour down in Florida back in December. Just one night, late night, we went in the studio. I wrote the riffs and music. We tracked it with the band that was touring with us, and Tom sang on it. And I said, I came out pretty good. I said, I got these other two songs called Sleeping Giants and Hammer Comes Down. I said, I never did really finish them with proper lyrics and melodies and stuff. I said, take a stab at him. And he did, and all of a sudden we had 3 songs. I mean, we initially thought, well, look, maybe when the book comes out, we'll have kind of like 3 songs as kind of a digital download companion to the book. And I said, I think I have enough music here. There's some demos that a Group F5 that I have where I talk about in the book from the 2000s era. And some stuff that I co-wrote with a friend of mine back in 1993 when Megadeth were on a break on the Countdown to Extinction tour, and that's those are the tracks that have David Glenn Isley and John Bush on them. And I thought, I'd listen to them again after many years. I hadn't listened to these songs in quite some time, and I listened to them, and they still made the hair on my arms tingle, and I just got that feeling, and I thought, these are still really, really good songs, and they deserve to see the light of day. And that's where Tom, he goes, and why don't we just call the album Sleeping Giants? Because that's what it is. There's all these songs that have kind of been sleeping in the vault, and let's wake them up and pull them out so everybody can hear them now.
Perfect. EMP label group. I've gotten to know Brent Arns from Flip. They're getting ready to do an album release on Saturday, their show, and then they have a record coming out on the 5th, the best of the worst of Flip, typical Flip fashion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's it's great to be able to work with so many legacy artists. We just put out this record by Last Crack.
Yes.
Who have really strong in the area. Green Death, your state mates over there in Des Moines.
Yep.
And it's just to support young bands, legacy bands, and that to me is what the label is about. Because it's hard. It's hard enough to get started in this business, especially today. It's probably even worse than it's ever been, because there isn't really a very promising end game to it anymore. The music. The whole goal of, hey, let's go be rock stars and take over the world. It's like, the rock stars today are, guys that start Facebook and Tesla and Apple Computer, those are the rock stars. So, playing music, music is a backdrop now. It's sort of it's a soundscape and kind of a backing track, which is why, again, to the Sleeping Giants album, it's really a companion soundtrack to the stories I told in my book. So it's kind of ironic that I'm actually kind of doing that myself with music. But, also, guys like Mark Slaughter and Doyle and Autograph, these guys are legacy artists, and they continue to make terrific music. And to be able to offer a platform to them to still put out music. And, EMP, we're in Combat. We do a good job of really blowing stuff up, and the awareness is what it's all about, because especially legacy artists, who have the opportunity to still go tour and perform live, just to let people know that they have a new album out, and that they're still viable and making compelling music is I think, a huge validation for artists in this day and age.
Talking with David Ellefson, and David, you've got the Bay Street Tour coming up. You're going to be at the Turf Club in Minneapolis, July 29th. The following night, the What's Up Lounge in Mankato, July 30th. What can people expect when they attend those?
Well, we've done some bass stories, and initially started kind of more like a storyteller/bass clinic. But, I think this one's going to evolve even a little further beyond that to be a bit more of a concert, actually. We always put some of our EMP label bands on the tour with us, which helps us give them a shot at, getting out and touring, and, to bring our whole wheelhouse of what we do all together in a package. But as far as my set with the bass story set, to have a book to tell the story and now have these new songs to play the bass to, that is the bass story. And of course, people always, like to hear something from, a Megadeth story or me playing a riff or something like that. So, it's just a perfect platform to be able to really tell a story of my musical life and my career through the platform of Bass Story.
Yeah, that makes me think of something this very impromptu. Years ago when we talked, I asked you about MTV News playing your bass riff and whether you got a reciprocity for that ever.
Well, we didn't for many years, and one day my lawyer had called me up, as I'm sure probably most other artists' lawyers called them up and said, hey, there's a class action lawsuit and you need to jump in on it and fill out this form online, and it was very well done. I mean, apparently all the record labels and the publishers were taking an action against Viacom, who owned MTV at that time, and there was many uses of many people's songs in many places on across MTV that apparently a lot of us weren't getting paid for, and I think it was probably a new horizon. I mean, nowhere in our record contracts, there was that language of how you get paid, and I'm sure, it's kind of like today with Spotify and digital streaming. It's like, okay, well, how are we getting paid on all this? Because this is a new technology that's, how do we do this? So you're sort of making up new rules here, but long answer to your short question is yes. One day a check showed up.
Nice.
And it was nice that everybody got taken care of. So I assume if we did, I'm sure everyone else did as well.
I really enjoyed the Altitudes and Attitudes, the EP and the album. It was just a fun music, and I just really enjoyed those recordings. So congratulations on those. I bought them and I listened to them from time to time.
Yeah, thank you. I know that's exactly what that is. It's just a fun moment for me and Frank to step out away from our regular bands and create something that's just very natural, and it's not preconceived, and we don't put any boundaries on where it can and should go. We found it to be very well received by everybody. It's really been a fun thing for us. And now that it's up and running and we've launched it and it's out there, it's probably something that we'll continue to revisit off and on now.
You've gotten into a lot of narration, and that's another, like we were talking about John Bush earlier, he does voiceovers, and you're doing narration and that kind of thing too. I know it's hard to get into, but it's a good gig if you can get it.
It is, and you radio guys are lucky because you do a lot of it anyway, just kind of your normal day job of cutting up commercials and doing different things, so you know what that is. And if you have a voice for it, you're kind of voice acting. Mark Slaughter, that guy could do like all the Looney Tunes. I mean, he's got an incredible voice, and he's a very funny voice actor. And mine, I found when I did some voiceover lessons, mine was more kind of narrative, in December 1941, the ship sailed from Japan. Mine kind of had this more kind of, I could narrate probably things for documentaries, but which is why I think people ask me to narrate their films and, a lot of these independent films that I've done. But it's cool, man. It's to me, it's about just being expressive, whether it's with a song, a lyric, an interview, or through writing a book, narrating, something. It's just always about being there to be kind of a tool to be used, a useful tool in the tool chest to be used for people and for greater good, and also just being creative.
Talking with David Ellefson, what's the latest on Metal Allegiance?
We just did a tour, West Coast tour a couple months ago, and it was designed to finish up at the Fillmore in San Francisco around the launch and the premiere of the Murder in the Front Row movie, which was the story of the Bay Area thrash metal scene. So Dave and I were in it. Metal Allegiance was in it. Excuse me, the Metallica guys are in it, as well as Exodus and a bunch of the crew from back in the day, the early 80s when that whole scene was starting. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. Metal Allegiance is another one of those bands we don't get to do it a lot because there's a lot of schedules to juggle, but when we do it, it's always just a ton of fun.
Yeah, you brought up the old school just in the last couple of months. I saw Flotsam and Jetsam. I saw Death Angel. I saw Overkill. Nobody had any idea that all this would still be going on in 2019. And everybody's like top flight. Everybody's still killing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's funny because it started as just this just thrashy little punk heavy metal, kind of a backlash, an unintentional backlash. We just wanted a little louder and heavier and faster and rowdier than what everyone else was doing. And, that was surprising that way of life didn't kill us all off, But, yeah, here we are all these years later, still out there doing it. So it's but, as much as anything, man, it's a testament to our fans, man, because they're, it's hard to play when you don't have people willing to come out and see it. So our fans, they've been, super loyal to a fault, and it all goes back to them. And I think that's the thing now is when we go out and play, like even Bass Story or Metal Allegiance, Megadeth, whatever we do, the fact that we still get to go do this. Some people are like, oh, I have to go do a show. It's like, no, you don't have to. You get to. You get to go get on that stage and play. And quite honestly, those rules go back to the Bancroft Ballroom with Gray James. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, kids, you get a shot tonight to play on our stage. Awesome, thank you. And I think as long as you keep that same gratitude, it's you get to really have a very enjoyable and fun life.
A couple more things, and then we'll let Dave go. How's the coffee doing?
Coffee's great. Yeah, coffee is really cool. We've expanded now over to Europe. We've got we're roasting and selling over there, and now into discussion to do something in Brazil. So we have some coffee across Latin America. And it's good. I'm still the best coffee salesman we have because we always bring coffee out every time I make an appearance, and we sell a ton of it. So it's one of those things that it's tied to, I guess it's kind of tied to my name and my legacy, and that's fine. I mean, we started it as a fun thing. It was an extra merchandise item, and it caught some wind in its sails, and it started to really take off, and so it's been a fun project for us.
And we're going to kind of finish up full circle. Congratulations on the induction into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you. That was really cool. I remember I took my family to Okoboji. It was in the winter, so it was cold, and the park was all shut down. Arnold's Park was shut down. And we they had just set that up, and I think it was really kind of more just the merchandising store. And I remember they had the booth from the Fox Lake Ballroom, which is a place I played many times in my early career growing up in Minnesota. And I saw Slipknot was inducted in, and it caught my attention. It was really cool. So, fast forward a few years, and now I get inducted in. It was really a badge of honor. My mother is from Spencer, Iowa. Actually, she grew up over in Gillett Grove, but she was a nurse there in Spencer, and then married my dad and just moved over the border up to Jackson, Minnesota. And, so that area is very near and dear to the Ellefson family. Obviously, I played a lot. I performed a lot down in Iowa as a teenager, and it was kind of one of those, my mother's gone, so I couldn't call home and tell her, but it was one of those kind of proud call home to mom moments, that, hey, Mom, I'm in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, So, it's very, very, very heartwarming, and to me, really just a great way for me to come back home.
Yeah. Your parents were always wonderful to me, and I always appreciate it. They always took my call, and they were wonderful people, and I know you know that, but it's always nice to hear it.
It is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's David Ellefson. I'm Mark Skaar on 103.7 The Fox.